Star Wars has certainly been a point of contention for years. Now, both Alex and I are big Star Wars fans, and Alex is here from Podcast Now. If you have not checked out his channel, the link will be in the description down below and hopefully in a pinned comment, which I've been trying to remember those. Alex, thank you for being here. You do awesome work. I've seen a lot of really good Star Wars videos from you, as well as a large plethora of other things. So I really appreciate you being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. Talking about Mandalorian, talking about Star Wars in general, always a blast and always fun talking with you.
Yeah, man, I always enjoy having you here too. And when it comes to Star Wars, it's almost a minefield at this point. The thing with Star Wars is, and we're going to talk about this a little bit too, the brand has been split for a long time. And now some people will say it's Disney Star Wars, and I do agree with that. But there were elements of this way back, even with the prequel trilogy coming out. I mean, episodes 1 and 2 especially, sort of dividing the fan base, and like original trilogy fans being like, this is not for me, I don't like this at all. I don't think it was nearly as vitriolic as it's become. I don't think people were nearly as upset. And I will say, just to hop into it real quick, I like, and I'm saying like, the sequel era, mostly. I really don't like episode 8. I like the final 30 minutes of it, but the rest of it I pass on completely. I'm not a fan. And I really do think the whole thing could have been better with more direction. And I say that as someone who likes it. I would say you like it less than me. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. I episode 7 I thought was really good, and then when I look at 8 and 9, I think what wasted potential was 7.
Yeah. So it's like we're both in sort of the same boat, but a little bit further apart on that. What I will say about this is this whole video is not even as much about that. It's about Star Wars as a brand. I just wanted to give you kind of our thoughts on that and what is going on with it, because I truly do believe that The Mandalorian is saving Star Wars. And I know that that's kind of a big claim. Like, what do you mean it's saving Star Wars? Star Wars is doing fine. Financially, Star Wars is doing fine, but I think it's had a really hard time attracting previous fans and new fans to some of these properties. They did get an influx of newer people with the sequels, but a lot of those people weren't previously fans of Star Wars, which again, that's what you want to do. But the problem is, instead of being able to maintain that and keep the old fans, they pushed a lot of old fans away from that saga with certain decisions, with characters, and other things that happened. It seems like The Mandalorian, and you and I were talking about this last night, this is one of the first things I can think of in years to bring new and old fans together. I can think of 3 or 4 things, especially in the Disney era, that have done this. Episode 7 seemed to do a good job of doing it, at least at first, before 8 and 9 came out. And I will say, too, that the season 7 of Clone Wars did a good job with this for the most part, especially the last 4 episodes of bringing all the fans together into hype. Rogue One sort of did. It's gone back and forth. And then finally, The Mandalorian seems to have done the best job with this. So what do you think about that? What do you think this is an indicator of? And I really did want to get your thoughts on it.
Yeah, no, I mean, those are all really good. I mean, I remember each of them, right? So like episode 7, like you're right. Everybody at that time, people really did enjoy it, even people that despise it now. And that's why I've always avoided giving episode 7 like hate, because although I really like episode 7 and I despise, I would say that's where we differ probably the most. I hate 8 and 9. I think they're not good. And so I get really sad again, like when I think about what 7 could have built. But you have people now that say, well, 7's trash as well because of 8 and 9. And I don't agree with that. But back then, everybody loved it. Clone Wars, like you said, all of this stuff. Mandalorian is the newest example of this, where week in, week out, you do have people, I've seen people on the negative-ish spectrum, but to their credit and to the credit of like what they've done with The Mandalorian, even the most negative you can get on the show is it's kind of like one-off episodes. It doesn't advance the plot too much. The characters kind of stay stagnant, things like that. And even the people that say that, they say, no, I still enjoy it. I just don't think it's like revolutionary. Now, maybe those are the people that like The Last Jedi, right? But I mean, we don't know. But overall, I would say even the farthest negative you could get with The Mandalorian is still pretty good. And to have everybody kind of on the same boat now for 2, because the difference and why, I love the title, I love the idea of this video, is because, Clone Wars ended, and actually season 7 of Clone Wars, I got to be honest, I didn't even think did the greatest job at all. The Ahsoka, the last 4 episodes were the greatest animated things I've ever seen in my life. But the first 8 were not very good at all. So that didn't do it consistently. Episode 7 did it for one movie, and then it, just got destroyed. And even Rogue One, like you said, yeah, everybody seemed to like it then, but now, like, it seems to be one of the most hated ones, which I don't understand. I actually love Rogue. I think it's one of the best Star Wars movies, and I still think that now. So Mandalorian's done it 2 years in a row, 2 seasons, where consistently the lows are still pretty high, and the high is like, well, this is the best thing Star Wars has ever done, which I don't necessarily agree with that. But I mean, I'm really happy to see everybody together for 2 years. Now, does it get ruined with the 5,000 shows that they're going to do in the future? I think it will eventually. But as of right now, we're in a really nice, happy place.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. And that's one thing I want to take a look at, too, with you with going forward, those shows. But first off, I will say that we are going to get into some heavy spoilers for season 2, sort of going forward for the rest of the video. This video is probably over halfway over or close to that. But going forward, if you don't want to hear heavy spoilers for Mandalorian season 2, this is your cue to jump ship. Now, here's a question I had for you, because the Mandalorian finale of season 2, well, and actually there's things before that I can get into as well, which I'll just touch on briefly. This season seemed really, really focused on 2 things. One was paying tribute to the Clone Wars, actually, while also advancing the plot line of other characters from the original trilogy and holding them in a respectful light. We haven't really seen much anything at all of, certain original trilogy characters like Han and Leia, right? But what we have seen this season, and one of the most hyped things ever, was Boba Fett's return. That was done incredibly. I will say, too, that they actually did a really good job with paying respect to the Clone Wars and the original trilogy in that character. You have Bo-Katan actually mentioning, that basically trying to discredit Boba Fett's Mandalorian stature, like, oh, you're not a real Mandalorian, you just had a donor, you didn't even have a father, I've heard your voice in the Clone Troopers before, kind of like that stuff was brought up word for word. And I mean, you saw, like, this paid tribute to everything. It paid tribute to the Clone Wars animated show. It paid tribute to episode 2, what we learned of Boba Fett then. It paid tribute to the original trilogy and what happened to him. They were sort of able to use him to bridge 2 entire trilogies and an animated series together with The Mandalorian, just in him. And that's not even mentioning what they did with Ahsoka. So do you think that this... I guess I have a couple of questions for you. What were your thoughts on those things? And also, do you think that this is sort of what they're trying to do going forward, to mend the wound and bridge these gaps back together?
Yeah, I mean, the show was doing a lot this year, while also it seemingly at times didn't do it. Like, there were some episodes that were kind of stagnant. I actually look at like episode 1, and even whichever one was like the spider, the frozen one. Those 2 are kind of not necessary in the grand scheme of things. But of course, they develop things with like Mando and Grogu and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, the entire season, I had a smile on my face. Even, I mean, the emotional ending of season 2, like, I mean, that was a different kind of smile. But they, seeing Bo-Katan, seeing Boba Fett, and like you said, like, when she's talking about his dad and all this kind of stuff, it's like, oh my God, like you said, like, they're nailing every single aspect. Or like even Ahsoka in the small kind of things, and I don't remember word for word, but like the fact that like she will not teach Grogu, and she doesn't really want to, because we watched Clone Wars, we know the history she's had with the Jedi and what happened. And I think it does such an incredible now, does it stretch it a little too thin? That's one of the only weaknesses I have with it, is because maybe they're doing so much and it's like a starting point for so many other series that eventually, what is it, just Mando? And like, that's like, because the show is kind of built right now off of like springboarding other things. And if you lose all of that, do you really have a show in The Mandalorian? Even if you don't, I mean, I would say for 2 seasons in, it did everything I could have hoped for and more. I mean, think about going into last year. We didn't even know Grogu was in this. You know what I mean? Like, can you actually imagine that? We didn't know what the show was at all going into episode 1 of last year. And now here we are with the lore expand. We have Luke, we have Boba Fett, we have Bo-Katan, we have Ahsoka, all these, and now they're getting their own shows. We have Thrawn being mentioned, all of this stuff. Like, it's absolutely incredible. And it's a little something for everybody, because not everybody saw Rebels. In fact, not a lot of people did see Rebels. Not everybody saw Clone Wars. Not everybody even knows who Boba Fett is, right? But it's got something for everybody. Even like my daughter, she's about to turn 7. She doesn't know half the things that are going, but she knows Ahsoka. So like Ahsoka was a big deal for her, but like she doesn't know who Boba Fett is. So these are things that make a difference to some people. Maybe for kids, they make a difference for. And then for someone like me, like obviously I know all these people, right? But she doesn't. Even like my wife, like she saw some of it. She, some movies, some shows. She didn't see all of it. It's such a cool thing to see, like you said, like it really is bringing everybody together because it's not losing you if you didn't watch any of these things, but it's kind of saying, well, if you did do this, like, hey, we may have an entire series for you, like, coming out if you watch this. So I think it's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I really do think that it's something, too, that it has been mending the wound and trying to bridge the gap and doing a good job with that. I do want to say, too, this is something that will be sort of confusing going forward. And I kind of want to do another video as well, maybe even today while we're recording, I'm not sure, about the future of Star Wars. So I don't want to get too far into this. But I will say, too, with the inclusion of Luke Skywalker in the finale, they show so many parallels between Rogue One and how Vader handled himself and Luke,
Yeah.
and they really do go all in on Luke as a powerful Jedi master at this point. This is 5 years after Return of the Jedi. Luke was already strong. Now he's like fully trained. He knows what he's doing. This is something that was incredible. That whole closing scene with Luke was great. Now, do I have some reservations on the CGI technology and I wish it was better? Yeah, I do. But overall, it's like that's kind of a nitpick compared to just how good it was. And I guess the question I have with you for that is, one, what did you think of that? And two, do you think, though, that it's soiled a little bit going forward because of the sequels? Like, does it matter that we see cool Luke knowing where he ends up on Octo, just sulking for years? And does this even matter at this point? Is it too little, too late? And do you think that this is sort of the point where they should branch off and be like, hey, that was that timeline, this is different? Because I almost feel like you have to make the Luke reveal really matter, and otherwise it's like, well, in the future Grogu's dead and he's gone, right? And Luke dies unceremoniously, kind of. How do you reconcile this with the sequels? Because it seems like they're doing an amazing job reconciling the prequels with Clone Wars, with Rebels, with the original trilogy, but we haven't seen much of a reconciliation with the future of Star Wars.
Yeah, no, that's I'll try and keep it short and sweet. So I love the ending. I love seeing him again. It's really amazing. But yeah, I mean, I'll be bluntly honest. Like, it really doesn't matter what. Like, it's such conflicting thoughts because like seeing him, seeing the light, like when you see the lightsaber, even if you for some reason didn't know it was him, when you see the lightsaber and you can identify like that's his, like it is so amazing and so amazing just to see him and to hear his voice again. Like we've never seen anything like, if you actually think about it, like the moment in time that we saw that scene is so incredible. But then you do think, and it's like, well, they destroyed his character. They literally did. I mean, there's no, I gotta be bluntly honest, right? I hate what they did with Luke. I think Mark Hamill hated what they did with Luke. I truly do. It doesn't matter that he's kind of taken back the things he said. He's also said some pretty sketchy things about Rian Johnson, about episode 8. So yeah, it's tough because it's like, this is such a cool thing and I want to see him train Jedi, but like, do I? Because the more I see it, we're just going to get closer to him being a loser, literally a pathetic loser who abandons everybody, goes on his own, doesn't really, does nothing throughout all of episode 8, and then sacrifices himself in a stupid way where he should have actually gone there and he stayed back instead. So, I mean, every decision Rian Johnson made, in my opinion, it's only my opinion, but every decision they made with Luke in 8 was just pure trash. So it is tough because I want to see more from him. I'd love an animated show. I think I've told you that before. I think they should do that. Go animated. You can have Mark Hamill voice him. You don't need a recast. You don't need to do de-aging. You don't need any of that. Do it. I think that would be really, really fun to see. But yeah, like you said, like you got to stop at some point because if you go too close, and it's clear, like, the Snoke thing, like that's what Grogu's blood is being used for. So, like, they're trying, and I respect them for trying because Snoke makes no sense anyway. But it's like, yeah, just maybe leave it alone because nobody really. I know there are people out there that love the sequels, but I don't know. Like you said, like it brought in a lot of new people, and I'm not calling them like fake fans. But I think if there's people that only like the sequels that maybe didn't like the other ones, I don't know. I don't know if those are the kind of people that you try to appeal to going forward. You know what I mean? And maybe that's too. Maybe this could be a controversial thing that I'm saying here on your channel, Jay. But I just don't think those are people that you go after. So I would say, do whatever you want with it, but you have to have some sort of stopping point, because eventually you're going to intrude upon the geniusness that was the sequel trilogy.
Yeah, no, I mean, the thing too is, and I do want to answer it a little bit, I think for the most part we agree on Luke Skywalker, just in general. I don't like how they handled him in 8 at all either. I will say that I was more fond of the last act of that movie, like where it was like, oh, he actually gives a crap again. I like that because to me that's Luke. But the problem is that to get there they had to make him a douche, which I don't really agree with. And look, here's the thing. People can change over a lot of time. They certainly can. But we now have confirmation that 5 years out from Return of the Jedi, Luke was mostly the same, if not even better than he was at the end of Return of the Jedi, as far as optimism and being a good person and character and stuff. And so now it's like you're narrowing the gap even more and more. It's like, well, at what point does this switch flip in Luke's head where he just becomes a prick and doesn't care about anybody?
And promising to keep them safe. Because he literally promised that he would do like anything to make sure Grogu's safe. So like you have him continuing to be this respectful, like I'm gonna put it all on the line, but then he gets them all killed in the stupidest way possible.
Well, and can I also mention, by the way, it seemed like there was a dig at the sequels there where he says, what was it? It was like power without training is pointless, or it's like useless.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, is that about Rey?
Don't tell Rey that.
Yeah. I was like, is that about Rey? And look, I've said before, I kind of like Rey. I kind of like Kylo. Those are the only two things I like from the sequels, really, is those two. But even they weren't handled amazingly. It's frustrating, man, because it just seems like Disney came in without a plan, and now they're relying on people like Dave Filoni who really care to try to fill in the gaps.
Right.
And look, yeah, we had that supplemental material in the past, but it was never needed to make it make sense. And now it's like it's needed. So I don't know. That's what frustrates me. I do think Mandalorian is trying. I think it's doing a good job. It's something that finally fans can come back together with and be like, hey, did you see Mandalorian? Yeah, I did. Boba Fett, right? Oh my gosh. Did you see Luke? That was incredible. What do you think about Mando? And it'll go, they made Bill Burr's character finally kind of likable. I mean, for heaven's sake, if you can do that, these people know what they're doing. I say just give them control.
Yeah.
So anyways, these are kind of our thoughts on The Mandalorian. I know it's a bit all over the place. Alex and I didn't actually talk about, where we were going to take this at a time, just because we wanted to have more of a free-flowing discussion about Star Wars as a whole and what we think. Let us know what you think in the comments down below. And Alex has an amazing couple of channels. Now, his second channel, even Podcast Now Plus, is not as widely known. I watch both of them. I love them. He covers a wide variety of topics just like we do here. So I hope that you will check his channels out and subscribe to him. And Alex, thank you so much for being here today.